The Players, in association with Oracle.
The Players. Portraits of the men and women who are agents of change in today's challenging world of business. The chief executives who play to win, who use technology and management innovation to achieve their goals. This week on The Players, John Defterios meets Bill Roedy, president of MTV Networks International.
Bill Roedy is putting his imprint on another successful venture, MTV's latest 24-hour music channel in China.
I was told triple happiness today.
The president of MTV Networks International has plenty of reasons to be happy.
Oh, it's all too sophisticated now. It's like driving an airplane, flying an airplane.
Betting heavily on new technologies, Roedy and his team launch more channels and websites around the world than any other entertainment company. Effectively making Viacom-owned MTV the largest television network in the world, reaching an estimated 1 billion people.
Is Osborne's pretty much done, sold, or are you still selling that too?
By growing distribution and stealing market share, Roedy grew ad revenues by more than 30% for MTV's music channels in 2002, despite the doom and gloom in the television industry. His trademark hats, sporting open 24 hours and no global, reflect his business philosophy. All his networks operate around the clock and are run with local viewers in mind. Roedy has another personal mission on his mind, using MTV's global reach to fight HIV and AIDS.
It's bigger than any epidemic in history, certainly since the plague.
This week, Bill Roedy, president of MTV Networks International. Bill Roedy is not your typical corporate executive. Dressed casually, he blends in well with the young, diverse staff at MTV's London studios in Camden.
As promised, a very special guest on the floor. The man who signs the checks, hires and fires the peeps. A round of applause for Mr. Bill Roedy, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, what's going on?
Dropping in on MTV2's Gonzo, he also shows he can hold his own with quick-witted host Zane Lowe.
Yeah, I have 3 rules. Never ever be an executive producer.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Never go on camera.
Yeah.
And never become a groupie. Those are my 3 rules, but I have disobeyed every single one of those rules regularly, especially becoming a groupie.
Well, I'm on camera, he's an executive producer, and he's a groupie. He's the new head of development. His motto is, I'm fresh out of ideas. Thanks, Zane.
This sort of banter keeps the 50-something Roedy in tune with the so-called MTV generation, aged 15 to 34.
He gets the tone of our audience, and you know, he is very quick with it. So it's working well.
Well, he's the sort of guy you just want to give him as free a rein as possible. I imagine you don't cut back on him at all.
Roedy also relies heavily on a decentralized management structure.
Empower, I think, is the most important thing. Hire people, hire good people, and entrust them. Don't. I mean, every once in a while you dip in, because I think that shows interest, and it's important to be as many places as possible. But the overriding theme is to empower your own people. Encourage them to take risks.
Roedy knows all about taking risks. The West Point graduate who served a year in Vietnam and managed missile bases in Italy joined MTV Europe in the late 80s. At the time, a network based on a pan-European model.
It was innovative, it was very pioneering, but in the end, it was not sustainable for a couple of reasons. One, because we had to drive closer to the audience from a country-specific point of view. And in other parts of the world, we had done that already. And, but also, the technology enabled us to do it in a much more cost-efficient basis. By digitizing everything, we were able to, therefore, come up with a business model that made sense.
But when you started in Europe, the original model was pan-European.
Right.
When did you decide that you couldn't keep it as a pan-European platform and you had to drill down locally to transform a market?
Around '94. And what happened is a couple things. One is the technology became available. We digitized our transponders, we digitized our transmission, so suddenly we were able to do things much more efficiently. For example, a transponder where you only had one channel, you were able to do 6. So we invested the money to do that. When I was running this, we had 1 in the early 90s. So now we have 35 channels. It's all digitized, of course. By going in a much more local basis, you open up other revenue streams. And you open up a much deeper revenue stream on the advertising side because you have local advertisers. So in the long run, it's actually much more economically viable.
How crucial?
And even more important than economically viable, although you can't get more important, I suppose, than that, is that you connect with the audience in a much greater way because you're much more vertical with a country-specific audience, language and culture and music, of course. So that enables you to get higher ratings, and that also furnishes a better business model, too.
Was there a lot of resistance from the global advertisers that were used to working on a pan-European or pan-Asian platform? When you presented this, there was some resistance originally?
Not really, because we've kept that, and our pan-regional business continues to grow, not only in Europe, but also in Asia and Latin America. So what we do now is we give this incredible flexibility to an advertiser, probably more than any other product in the world. You can buy Greece if you want, or you can buy Greece in Israel, or you can buy Germany, Greece and Israel, or you can buy the entire Europe region, you can buy Europe and Latin America, you can buy the entire world. When you add it all up, it's over 100 different options.
The digital revolution paved the way for MTV Network's growth. Today, it boasts over 80 channels covering 164 countries, from Brazil to Russia, from India to Japan. MTV caters to half the world's population, creating a perfect link for advertisers trying to sell their products to this young, highly coveted audience. While MTV is the network's flagship channel, VH1 for adult music lovers and children's channel Nickelodeon also come under Roedy's expansive umbrella. And there are multiple MTV spin-offs, such as MTV2, MTV Dance, or MTV Base.
We have the digital platform, so we're able to launch genre-specific channels. We have a lot of capacity. We have 8 music channels specifically designed for the UK. So here we take a whole channel wrapped around a genre. In this case, it's R&B.
Now, when you started there, did you think, God, this is a danger because I could cannibalize my own audience? It's such a fragmented product.
Yes, there is. There is that danger, of course, but because we would rather own it than someone else. And it's a void in the marketplace. There's a lot of demand for this music, particularly in the UK. And we integrate everything. You know, we sell across platforms. We sell the we sell the cume, if you will.
Yeah.
So the cannibalization is okay because we sell it together.
Having upgraded its broadcast to digitally compressed transmissions in 1995, MTV can now be seen on every platform in Europe. The company has also embraced broadband with distinct programming meant to personalize and deepen the experience, but also trigger multimedia participation.
MTV Select.
So Select is a format that we use pretty much worldwide, which is basically request. So it involves an interactive portion as well.
Somebody can request what they want to watch.
Yes, exactly.
And then it goes into a queue and they get it.
Depending on where you are, we do it in many different formats. It can be online, it can be by phone, be by letter, pigeon carrier. We'll hear all the different means of distribution.
In the Nordic region, the technology penetration is great. So this gives you a chance to experiment on technologies that would go into other markets in the future. You want to just give me a sample of what you try to do in that market?
Well, almost every show we have has an online component. I mean, that's number one. We're always putting the website on, so you can plug into that because there is quite a bit of going back and forth between the two. SMS, we have a lot of wireless activity in the Nordic region. We also developed a channel specifically for broadband in Nordic called MTV Live, which now we have distributed elsewhere in Europe.
At MTV Live, viewers become part of the programming. Beyond featuring exclusive live content, viewers can play the role of artist, producer, screenwriter, or composer, and in one genre, act like the wildest rock star. Another innovation is called MTV Peak.
So the whole aim of this is, here's a 15-minute fix of MTV, where you can just tune in, get your fix, move on. That is updated all the time, but it uses the interactive capabilities that we have in the UK. And ideally, we're a bit of a test bed. We learn how this is going to work, and now pass this on to the other territories.
And then the next development of this is gaming. You would use this kind of functionality to get there, and that would then start creating kind of, you know, a pay-per-play revenue stream for us, which we haven't had. So people access a game, and for 50 pence they can play a particular game.
At this year's CeBIT, the world's largest technology trade show, MTV rocked the mobile world when it announced a 3-year, $75 million alliance with Motorola, the biggest ever marketing collaboration for either company. It extends MTV's programming outside the U.S. to the wireless world.
Early on, you know, even before the internet boom, we saw that our audience was particularly technologically savvy, more so perhaps than the older generation. So we jumped on this in a big way, early on. So our aim is to have our audiences experience our brands, not only MTV but also Nickelodeon, in a multi-platform way. And everything has now been integrated, everything. So it's very much the internet. We have over 40 localized websites, totally integrated from a creative point of view, and also from a sell. When we sell advertising, we sell it both online as well as the channel. And then the third component is wireless. And wireless offers, particularly outside the U.S., because in certain markets of the world, it's even more developed. So everything from doing the music on your ringtone to getting actual content to having that brand identification on the phone is a very compelling thing, very compelling accomplishment for someone like Motorola. And, you know, Motorola's great for us as well because we learn from them. You know, they've got wonderful technology. They've got a great brand as well. So it's very much a partnership, very much mutual benefit.
I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second. How we're doing year on year in advertising sales, revenue growth in '02. It's one number, percentage-wise.
25%.
Unbelievable. Against a market average of?
2 or 3.
So 2 or 3 market average, UK. We're doing around 25%.
That's right.
Okay. Unbelievable. How do you do it? What's the number one reason, besides superior management?
They're strong brands.
Strong brand. Sounds good.
While Roedy claims he's not a micromanager, he keeps a close tab on the numbers, which are enough to keep him and parent company Viacom very happy. Over the past few years, MTV Networks International has outpaced its U.S. sibling. Advertising sales skyrocketed and revenues tripled since 1996, accounting for 1/5 of the company's overall revenues. Roedy has been able to maintain that momentum.
40% earnings growth, it's almost double the rate that you're seeing in the United States for MTV. That is phenomenal. I mean, is this a sort of a pace you can keep up?
Well, I think so, for a couple of reasons. We're launching new products. In many of the markets around the world, the distribution continues to grow. You know, when you look at it varies, of course, region by region, but the aggregate is roughly 35 to 40% cable and satellite penetration to television households. In the States, it's, 80% or so. So they're almost double. So we have a long way to go. Another underlying idea here is that now 80% of our viewership around the world is actually outside the U.S. 8 out of every 10 viewers on a particular day who are watching MTV happen to be outside the U.S. We're not anywhere near 80% to revenue or 80% to EBITDA. So again, just intuitively, you got to believe that there's tremendous growth ahead for us.
Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to China Company.
Thank you very much.
When we return, we'll accompany Roedy to China, where he struck a deal to put MTV on 24 hours a day.
To Mr. William Roedy, Chairman of the Global Business Council of HIV/AIDS.
And he reveals the reasons behind his personal crusade against AIDS.
Mr. President, honored delegates, ladies and gentlemen.
The Players, an association with Oracle. The Players, an association with Oracle.
Bill Roedy is ready to party, and he has a good excuse, having just won approval by the Chinese government to launch a 24-hour music channel in China, the highlight after a whirlwind 18 months during which Roedy and company launched 36 channels and websites.
How long did it take to actually cultivate the relationships with the party bosses to pull off the initial distribution, but then 24-hour distribution? Most people think, well, this is a 2 or 3 year venture, but sounds like it's closer to a decade.
It may be complicated. You may make a lot of mistakes. But there's no such thing as a global strategy for any company without China. You've got to figure out a way to make it work. And I think some of the themes, you have to be patient. And as you just said, you have to develop relationships. And we've been doing that. I've been going to China now for 10 years. And when you know each other on a first-name basis, and they feel a certain familiarity with you, it's important because you build up credibility, you build up trust.
It's amazing, though, if you think about it, because MTV is the ultimate capitalist tool. I mean, you're promoting artists and selling advertising. It's complete capitalism.
We are actually the ultimate socialist tool. We play all the music, we please all the constituencies, all the audiences, all the diversity. So I would disagree with you, but we wouldn't want to be called too capitalist, even though we do quite well on the bottom line.
I will not have a full night's sleep, a restful sleep, until I see a major star, global international star, come from China.
Roedy and his team of MTV producers and VJs constantly comb local markets for top talent, as here in China.
I'm a big believer in your music. I have never heard better harmony. Never. There's no reason to be nervous because your voice is magical. Magical. Because we want your video on MTV. Not even knowing the words, the music went right through me.
It's all part of his Think Global, Act Local strategy.
Potentially well over 1 billion young people have access to MTV, and we create this opportunity for advertisers. So of course it's a global brand, and it pops up in all the global surveys, top 5 for awareness and vertical credibility. So the brand is very important, but even more important than that is that it resonates in a very different way. Audiences generally feel in many parts of the world, and we aspire to every part of the world, to own this brand from a local perspective and not think of it as a British brand or a global brand or a European brand, but wherever they are. If they're in Brazil, it's a Brazilian brand, or in China, it's a China brand.
MTV reinforces that beat by staging 11 music award shows around the world, from Europe to Japan. Music being the universal language, Roedy has managed to customize MTV's offering shrewdly, on air and online.
70% local content, is that kind of your benchmark in each market to say this is the right mix to be a global local play?
I don't like to actually say a number because it varies so much, and it's totally dependent on the audience. It can be as high as 70%, it can be as high as 80% local, meaning the music, of course everything is designed from a local perspective, meaning the language, the VJs, and the attitude. Very importantly, the attitude and the sensibility of the channel is designed from a local perspective. But the actual content can vary quite dramatically depending on where you are. And some audiences are more open to international content, both music and even non-music programs. But generally, the trend has been toward more local.
An approach that has resulted in creative local shows, as well as emerging local talent gaining international exposure. Colombian-born Shakira was unknown outside Latin America until she recorded MTV Unplugged. Teen group Tattoo is the latest rock sensation, hailing from Russia.
How about the power of MTV? You've made or broken careers, in a sense. If somebody's discovered an MTV, you can back them. It's the launching pad for careers. That's quite a bit of power in the music industry.
We can do that for you. We can make or break your
Not a good
career.
singer, but
Totally overrated. You know, we're quite humble.
Britney Spears?
Well, Britney Spears is, you know...
Eminem, right?
Eminem, they were all great for us. And, you know, we ride their coattails as well. A lot is said about that, and I think it
But
must...
if you back, you back an artist, it's a fair chance they're going to succeed. If they didn't have your backing, they probably would fail. Is fair?
I wouldn't go that far. No, I think you can definitely succeed, obviously, without MTV. There's lots of different vehicles for artists. It's not only MTV. There are other music channels, of course. There's radio. There's, you know, the retail store. So I wouldn't go that far. We do have a lot of influence. We try and take that in a responsible way. Not even more importantly than the musical side.
So our ratings are up 52% year on year as a whole network. So we are the fastest growing networks of channels on Sky. Unbelievable. Full stop for this year, for last year.
MTV is not all about music. It invented reality TV in the early 90s with the real world, pushing MTV into a new form of programming.
We've got 3 cornerstone programs: the Osbournes, Jackass, which come from the US, as you know, and then our homegrown Dirty Sanchez show that picks up the ratings throughout an hour and a half long, and that puts you in that kind of position. There's proof here that if you have the right programming content at the right time and schedule it properly and promote it properly, you can break through out of the kind of, you know, the mass of digital channels and come through right amongst the BBC and ITV and Channel 4.
I'm a believer.
There we go.
You made me a believer.
So that's the hard
Can
fact.
I write more checks?
We want you to.
Invest in more programming?
We want you to.
MTV also doesn't shy away from addressing controversial issues such as the war in Iraq, AIDS, drugs, and racism.
Do you talk to your daughter about sex and condoms, and if you do, what do you say?
Former U.S. President Bill Clinton and Secretary of State Colin Powell hosted forums on MTV. So did British Prime Minister Tony Blair.
Language of any real meaning.
With all due respect, Mr. Blair, I'm able to produce an anthrax in my bathtub, obviously, because I've obviously studied
MTV now is not just a music channel. It's a platform for politicians to come on and communicate with this young demographic, which is very important to them and their livelihood, of course, getting reelected. Prime Minister Tony Blair recently went on to the channel to discuss the conflict in the Middle East. What is the motivation here for MTV? Is it a way for you to make a difference well beyond music?
It was all about giving young people a voice. They were really no holds barred, and I think one of the most gratifying things about that experience for me, and this is not a one-off with this particular forum, is how young people are so well informed and how passionate they are and how they want to be heard and how they want to have the opportunity to ask the questions. So they fired away at him for an hour, and it was tough for him. Yeah, I thought he came through it. I thought he did brilliantly. Cambodia?
Cambodia, yeah. We're trying to find out how she's doing, actually.
I want to talk to you about AIDS, if we can, because I mean, we talked about the political side of it and reaching out from the brand side and the technology here, but you're using MTV to pursue a personal crusade, which is combating HIV and AIDS. Why is that such a strong personal crusade for you?
Well, it didn't happen overnight. It evolved over the years. I've had several close friends, unfortunately, tragically die. One, an employee who was a dear friend, as well as a colleague who ran our communications department for Latin America, saw him fight very bravely and unfortunately succumb to it in the end. Even before all that, MTV, as one of its issues, has been very involved and very active about HIV/AIDS awareness, really well before the epidemic has taken off. And why is that? It's because our audience tends to be more sexually active, young people. And it's again come through the years that unfortunately now with the epidemic, over half of all new HIV infections occur to those below age 25. Tragically, that's our audience. So not only has it been a personal mission because of my experiences and my work with UNAIDS, but it's been very much part of MTV's.
In late 2002, MTV staged a concert in Cape Town, South Africa, aptly named Staying Alive, to send a message of AIDS awareness and tolerance to young people worldwide.
I'm going to dedicate this show to all the people we lost to the AIDS, HIV virus. I love y'all.
We brought Alicia Keys, P. Diddy, we had all the artists from Africa. And it was quite something. We transmitted it around the world, got wonderful ratings. Issue a challenge regularly to all broadcasters around the world saying, hey, if you don't have the inclination to produce your own programming or you don't even have the budget, not to worry, run our programming. Take the brand off, no trademark fees, no cost at all, no rights, no strings attached, just run our programming. And the good news about that is we've been able to double our potential audience to 2 billion people.
Roedy's efforts on AIDS have won him many accolades. one of them from rapper Wyclef.
I was sitting down here playing with Bill Roedy's name, and I was spelling it out, just sitting in my seat. And I think the B stands for brotherhood. You know, you give me that sense of brotherhood. The I stands for like inner peace. Because it's like when I shake your hand, I feel a vibe of the inner peace. And I feel the reason there's 2 L's in your name, that's like, I don't think God wanted to say love one time. I think he wanted to say twice.
Besides his commitment to battling AIDS, Roedy still finds time to focus on other priorities, like building a family, seen here at the Nickelodeon studios in London.
Having a good time. What's it time for?
It's by far the most successful children's brand in the world. In the U.S., just as an example, Nickelodeon is the highest rated cable program of any cable channels, anything. I mean, it's quite extraordinary what they've been able to do. That has inspired me to have my own focus group at home. So I started late. I was 47 when I had my first. User a break. I'm Bill Roedy.
Nice to meet you. How are you?
Thank you.
Roedy has spearheaded MTV's global expansion into the world's leading multimedia brand for youth. Staying young at heart along the way, he has proved that his age is no drawback to understanding a generation named after his brand.
It's been a great ride for us, I must say.
Good.
And the important thing about that is that you can't rest on your laurels. One of the challenges that we face globally is tons of competition, which is a great thing for our audiences. But boy, it keeps us up at night. You know, we try not to look over our shoulder too much, but you know, we want to completely focus on the future and reinvent ourselves. Never rest on your laurels. It's another important part about our culture. Constantly take risks and reinvent yourself.
30 seconds to live. Okay, we're leaving.
No, it's okay. If you want the kids on, it's great, man. It's all good.
You
I'm going to chair. I'm going to the plate here.
Thank you. All right. Came through.
And then what we can do is we can bump the price for Stop the Pop.
Emma, do the other kids want to come back in?
I think they're all right out there for a minute.
The Players, in association with Oracle.